Japan's Daisetsuzan National Park is home to many popular hiking destinations. One of the mountains in this national park was named Mount Asahidake. It is the largest mountain in the area. The trail leading to the mountain is frequented by many hikers. On a particular day in July of 1989, two men from Tokyo decided to visit the popular hiking spot. They knew it should not be too difficult to reach Asashidake mountain from a specific hiking trail. They had successfully completed several hikes before, and were confident that they could add this particular mountain to the list. The men did as much preparation as they could. They researched the trail. They asked people who had been on the trail before, and all they got were positive responses. The weather was amazing. You'll love it. The top was breathtaking, you need to get there. Prompted by the positive ratings of the hiking trail, they got their maps and set out on their unforgettable hiking trip. You'll soon realize why it is unforgettable. The beginning of the trail was as easy as a walk in the park. It wasn't too steep, and it was a well-traveled path. You could see the path clearly, having had thousands of footprints that came before. They continued on with the hike until they realized that the well-traveled path disappeared. What was left were green patches of nothing where a trail should be. One of his friends had warned them about this, so they weren't too worried. All they had to do was to continue walking until they find the safe rock. Once they reached the safe rock, they could confirm that they were on the right path, and the rest of the path would be clearly defined. The safe rock was shaped like a square. It's hard to miss it. Not many rocks are shaped like a square. Except, another rock was shaped like a square, and it just happened that it was right around the area. One of the men called out to the other, trailing a bit further behind. "Look, it's here. We've made it. We found the safe rock." Relieved, one of the men ran to the safe rock and stopped to admire its peculiar shape. "That's a square rock, all right. This must be it. What else could have been the safe rock?" The other men caught up eventually, and they continued their ascent up the mountain. They kept on walking, and for a while it seemed that they were getting closer to the peak of the mountain. The path was clearly going uphill. They came to a pivotal point where the hill changed direction. Instead of going up, it was going down instead. There was no other path, so they stayed on. After a while, one of the men, the one who was a bit slower, stopped and asked his friend to slow down. "Are you sure we're going in the right way?" The man looked at his friend. "Yes, of course. We found Safe Rock, remember? Safe Rock told us to go this way." But inside, both men were starting to question their decision to go on this hiking trip that day. They continued the hike. And soon, they reached their first sighting of bamboo. Bamboo has a long and rich history in Japan, and its significance extends far beyond just being a popular hiking trail in Kyoto. Bamboo has long been seen as a symbol of strength, resilience, and flexibility in Japanese culture. The slower man decided to stop once more. "I don't think we're in the right place," he said, looking at the thick bamboo forest ahead. He could barely make out any light sipping through the opening between the bamboo. He was a bit chubbier than his friend, and he worried he didn't have the endurance to get through it. Not to mention, the clearly defined path has left them a while back. The other men didn't want to add on to the growing fear that they were lost, so he pretended that he was sure they were on the right course, but of course, he has no idea where they were. In his mind, they will see the well-defined path again, after they exit this patch of dense bamboo. "Don't be lazy, let's go. It's just on the other side." The two men started hiking through the bamboo. And they had to take off their backpack to pass through some areas of the bamboo as it was too dense for them to freely move through. They would continue through the bamboo tree for an hour before the slower man stopped once more. "I think we're lost," he said. And this time, his friend agreed. Over the next couple of hours, the two men first tried to stay put before trying to find their way back. But they were already confused about which direction they came from. Hours passed, and the night fell. Luckily, they had informed of their friends and family about their trip that day, and when they didn't come home, the search and rescue team was called. The first hour of search would turn into days with no sign of the men. They had searched through thousands of square miles of the mountain with volunteers in the air and on the ground. On July 24, 1989, The helicopter, on a hunch, flew over an area that they did not search before because they didn't think the men would wind up there. There was little chance anyone would find themselves there. To their horror, they discovered something that would change everything. There was a huge SOS sign spelled out by trees in a corner of a mountain. How did anyone end up there? The other members of the rescue team were informed, and they made their way over there. Miraculously, a few minutes into the search, the two men stumbled out of the thick bamboo. They had found their way back into civilization. They looked completely disheveled. Patches of their clothes were missing, and they hadn't had anything to eat for more than a day after their food ran out. One of the men looked like he was about to collapse. They were both taken to a hospital nearby, and doctors determined that they will make a full recovery. As they were recovering in the hospital, some of the rescue workers and pilots made a visit to the hospital. The conversation eventually reached the SOS sign. That SOS sign, that was genius. That was a very smart thing to do. I spotted your sign from above. That's how we locate you in that area of the forest. Confused, one of the men interrupted the conversation. We didn't make that sign. Horrified. If the men didn't make that sign, someone else did, and they may still be trapped on that mountain clinging on for life. The rescue workers rushed back into the area of the mountain, where the two men were lost just days prior. They weren't sure if whoever made that sign was still alive, but they need to try and locate the person or persons. They were soon face to face with the SOS sign at ground level. They called out for survivors, but no one answered their calls. Wondering whether the person who made the sign had already found their way back, they decided to make a more thorough search of the area, just in case somebody was lying unconscious somewhere. One of the rescue workers blew the whistle. They found something inside a deep hole underneath a tree. It was a backpack. It looked worn down, like it had survived countless nights alone in the mountain by itself. They couldn't find anyone nearby to who the backpack could have belonged, so they took the backpack back with them. Inside, they found various hiking gear, but they also found a recorder and a driver's license. The name on the license was Kanji Iwamura, who disappeared after a hiking trip in 1984. He was just 25 years old. The person was renting a lodge nearby, and when he failed to check out, the landlord notified the police thinking he was in trouble. They played the recording, and it was a recording of a man breathlessly saying that he was stuck on a cliff and couldn't move. He needed someone to lift him out of the thick forest. The man was yelling out SOS on the recording. They believed that Kanji must have been the person who built the SOS sign. His backpack was found near the SOS sign, and he was calling out SOS. It's a natural thing to assume Kanji must have been the person behind the sign. Kanji must have been too tired or injured to continually yell out for help, so he made the recording that could be played back to whoever may hear it. From the recording, it's made clear that Kanji had made a momentary lapse of judgment. He had climbed over a ledge and found himself inches away from a cliff. He realized the slope was too steep to try and continue down. After several days stuck on the ledge, he decided to climb down the slope. We don't know which condition he was in by that point. Was he dehydrated, hungry, and injured? But miraculously, he would make it down the steep slope and walk through the bamboo until he exited the thick bamboo and arrived at a clearing, where the SOS sign was later found. Searchers later found a partial human skeleton, which they believed belonged to Kanji. They declared the case solved. However, people were angry. In their minds, they believed the police were missing something. They didn't think that Kanji made the SOS sign. The SOS sign was made using 19 birch tree logs. Each letter measured at about 16 feet tall and 10 feet wide. Each log would have been too heavy for Kanji to carry, especially if he had been lost in the forest for a couple of days already. Maybe dehydrated and starving. The trees appeared to have been taken down by an expert. They were trimmed on the edges and were evenly sized. It was too well made to have been made by someone who had no help and no food for days. They also could not find Kanji's hatchet if he had any. The question is, did someone make the SOS sign? What happened to them? Were they able to get out safely? Did Kanji stumbled upon an SOS sign and decided to wait at the spot for help? But help never arrived. One theory states that Kanji might not have been alone. The task to create the SOS sign would have been difficult for anyone even if they were fit and healthy. When the recording was played to Kanji's family, they initially didn't recognize their son's voice. On top of that, the skull found was initially thought to have been a female with type O blood. Kanji was a male with type A blood. The media were harsh on the police, and the police responded by releasing a statement, explaining they had misclassified the skull, and it was indeed male with type A blood. Some believed the police were sweeping things under the rug. There was clearly someone else there. Either they were with Kanji, or they were there before or after Kanji arrived in the area. But who? It's possible that the person to who the skull belonged to, Kanji, and the people who built the SOS sign were different people, and they all somehow ended up there in that remote corner of the mountain on separate occasions. After all, it wasn't the first time the people have gone missing in the bamboo forest after mistaking the false safe rock for the real safe rock. Some of them were never found. If you're wondering why they didn't put up a sign warning people that it wasn't the safe rock. The mountain was considered sacred to the Japanese, and changing the landscape in any way, including leaving signs, was considered inappropriate. And there was a sign that warned of the false safe rock, near the entrance of the hiking trail. It's possible that those who got lost just didn't bother to read it. Thanks for making it until the end.